Hi, there we go. A little faux pas there going on. Hey, it's Big Rich, and I'll tell you what, man. It's week number 2 of Two Tire Change here on Driving to the Top Productions. But I want to thank everybody for coming and checking us out tonight, and it's gonna be a fun night. We're gonna, of course, get to talk about the Clash. I've got my opinions on the Clash. I want to know your opinions on it as well. Speed weeks are right around the corner. We'll get into the schedule for the 2025 Speed weeks. There's also about to be, well, there has been a rule change brought down for the start of the season that I'm a huge fan of. But then also, there's going to be a couple of things that we're going to get into as well throughout the course of the broadcast that are going to be kind of neat for us to talk about as we go. Hey, hit us up if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have whatever that you want to talk about, hit us up. However, you are watching the broadcast, let us know what you think. And got a question of the week for you. And this is something that we're going to try and do each and every week. But I got a question of the week for you. Do you like the way the Clash has been done the last several years, where they do the real short track and um, they were at the LA County Coliseum and now they were at Bowman Field? Do you like that, or do you wish they would go back to Daytona and do the clashes at Daytona and do the Clash at Daytona? Um, I'll get into that a little bit more as the broadcast goes on, but I want to know what you think about it. So, hit us up, give us your comments on that, and let us know what you think. I'm real curious to find out what all of y'all think. 'Cause like I say, this is something that is a little controversial, but it's okay. Last night, of course, the Cookout Clash. I'm not a fan. I'll tell you this right up front. I don't wanna change your opinions or anything, but I wasn't a fan last night. Um, pardon me. Was not a fan of the race last night. Chase Elliott ends up getting the win. Ryan Blaney second, Denny Hamlin third, Joey Logano fourth. Defending champion Joey Logano coming fourth. Bubba Wallace 5, Russ Chastain 6th, Austin Cindric 7th, Tyler Reddick 8th, Shane Van Gisbergen in the new 88 car 9th, and Chris Buescher in 10th. You could have seen Chris Buescher's car coming from 8 miles away with that neon green treetop paint scheme. But other big names: Kyle Busch finished 15th, Kyle Larson 17th, William Byron 18th. Chase Briscoe brought up the rear, but he had some steering issues. So that obviously isn't going to help you out at all. First things first, and this is a rule change that I think is fantastic. Again, I want to know what you think about this. Hit us up on our Twitter at Go Big Go Home Pod. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Driving to the Top Productions YouTube page. But NASCAR is eliminating the DVP policy. Drivers can now bring their cars back to the garage, get repairs done, and return to the race. If a driver brings their car to pit road for repairs, they will be on a 7-minute clock. Last year it was a 10. Once that time expires, they must report to the garage, but will not be out of the race. Last year, if they had to go back to the garage after that 10-minute time limit, you're out. You're done. Additionally, cars will not get towed to their pit stall. They will be towed to the garage only. But with this new rule, they will not be out of the race. So, all that to say, you now have a case where you don't have to be concerned about, okay, it's it's over. We got 10 minutes, and some of these things As good as these guys are, 10 minutes still ain't long enough. But the other part of it also is that when you look at especially in the playoffs, but some of the guys that get into these accidents on short tracks and things like that, body damage, there's too many variables. And whenever you have those variables, it makes it really difficult to lay out a concrete rule system like this. There's a whole lot of play in this. You got 7 minutes if you're on pit road. If it doesn't work, you got to go to the garage and keep doing what you're doing. Okay, great. That works out fine. At least you're not out of the race. At least you have it. You may be 100 laps down at Bristol by the time you come out, but at least you have a chance to come out, rack up some points, that sort of thing. I like that change. I'm definitely in favor of it. I think it's a good rule. As close as things are on pit road, I'm not a big fan of them doing work on pit road. You get guys under the car and they're stretched out and all that, and they're not paying attention to, am I sticking out into the road? Am I sticking into the next guy's pit stall with my foot or my leg? And it's kind of asking for somebody to get hurt. And that is the last thing you want to have happen, is for someone to get hurt. So I as much as I like the garage end of things, I don't know that I would allow repairs on pit road that force pit crew members to be in that position. Does that make any sense? If you're changing out a brake rotor or something like that, you got to get up underneath, go to the garage. If it's a body deal, if you're putting duct tape and Bondo on this thing, that's a whole different ballgame. If you're replacing the spoiler, or if you're doing something with the track bar, those kinds of deals where you're not putting yourself in danger and maybe you're still standing up, that kind of deal, I get it. But if it puts you in that position where you got to be under the car or laid out, I would like to see that change made. That those sort of repairs have to be taken to the garage. But hey, that's just me. Um, the playoffs for next season could be changed. NASCAR Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer John Probst said today, or excuse me, last Monday, that no changes are coming in 2025, but the playoff format will be reconsidered ahead of the 2026 season. And he spoke at a season opening meeting. Quote, I think we want to get into the habit of making small little tweaks every season to the playoffs. Where we landed was for 2025, not making any changes to the playoffs. Although throughout the course of the year, we will be getting a working group together with some media folks, OEMs, Goodyear drivers, and look at this whole scheme. The current format, of course, 16 drivers qualify for a 10-race chase, 4 rounds. The field of drivers goes from 16 to 12, 12 to 8, 8 to the championship 4, and then the last race at Phoenix is winner take all. For those of you that don't remember, Joey Logano realistically should have never been in the championship. He never should have been in the Final Four. He never should have been in the Elite Eight. If it wasn't for the fact that Alex Bowman and his car got disqualified, then Joey Logano doesn't get in. I'm not a fan of what they did there. Me personally, if that was, again, it's like if you caught the initial show last week with Brad Gilley, where I said, if you were king of NASCAR, if I were king of NASCAR, Bowman gets disqualified. Okay. I get it. nobody moves up because you didn't earn that spot. And you and I know, you and I know deep down in our souls, none of the guys are going to say it. Not one of those guys are going to say it. But every one of them has had it roll through their head and their heart all off season. Why did Logano get the chance to do this? He was out. Bowman was in. Just because Bowman got disqualified doesn't mean Logano should have gotten that spot. That's just me. So when you look at it from that standpoint, if that could have been that makes an entirely different last 7 races. Definitely a different end of the season. Is William Byron the champion? Does Tyler Reddick win the champ? Do any of those guys win the championship? And then that next round, you just eliminate 3 instead of 4. That seemed like a whole lot simpler way of doing it than to bring Joey Logano up and allow him to. And I know for you Logano fans out there, sorry. And we'll get into we'll get into a little bit more about where my allegiances lie, because I want to know where y'all's allegiances lie too. And there are guys within the NASCAR Cup Series that I am not the biggest fan of by any stretch, and there are guys that I am a big fan of, and we'll talk about that a little later on. And I want to know who your affiliation is with as well. But whenever we're looking at this, and whenever we're talking about the playoffs and the ability to win that championship, you have to earn it. Now, do I need to go to the extreme of Ross Chastain a couple years ago? Maybe. I thought that was the most brilliant move that I had seen in a long time in NASCAR. I really did. I thought it was brilliant. Got him into the next round, blew past Denny Hamlin, got in. Hey, kudos to you, Ross. Some people think Ross Chastain's a little bit of a jerk, which he can be. All in all, he's a good driver. He's definitely the key to Trackhouse racing. And I like what they did there. I didn't like Joey Logano getting in. And of course, he gets lightning in a bottle and wins his championship this past season. Okay. It is what it is, but definitely not a big fan of the way they did that. So I'm curious to see what kind of changes they are going to consider. Operative word, consider, for 2026. Speed weeks. Oh my goodness. Here we go. It is here. And my goodness, next week is going to be absolutely a million miles an hour at Daytona. It's going to be crazy. It really is. When you look at what's going on from Wednesday through the Daytona 500 on Sunday, there's a reason why people go out there for the whole week, because there will be something going on the entire time, from early in the morning until late at night. There will be some sort of racing going on almost the whole time. Wednesday, things kick off at 10 o'clock Eastern, practice number 1. Then you got media day at 12:30. Then you got qualifying at 8:15 that night. And then you've got press pass after the Cup Series qualifying at Daytona. They'll be taking place, big media press conference. And they've got all kinds of concerts and things like that going on as well. Thursday, you've got ARCA practice starting at 3, truck practice starting at 5, duel number 1 at 7, duel number 2 at 8:45. And then, of course, now you've got the field for the Daytona 500. 46 cars running for 40 spots. So there's going to be some people doing some stuff that maybe they wouldn't necessarily do to get to that point. But this is the Great American Race. This is the race that if you win it, you will always be known as a Daytona 500 champion. Friday, you have your ARCA qualifying, your truck qualifying, Xfinity practice, NASCAR Cup Series practice, and then after all that, at 6:30 on Friday, you got the truck race, and then Saturday, Xfinity qualifying, the ARCA race at 11, another practice session for Cup, then the Xfinity race, and all that's on Saturday. And then Sunday, of course, you've got the Great American Race at 2:30 Eastern time on Sunday. But that stretch and almost all of that stuff is on TV in some way, shape, or form. All the practices, all the and Fox does a tremendous job. I am a much bigger fan of Fox and their broadcast than NBC, TNT, all those guys. I'm a much bigger fan of Fox and what they do. The announcers, the analysts, just top to bottom. It seems like they have a lot more cohesiveness in the booth. They do. They have a great time. You can tell they're having a great time. But they also are able to, be informative. And the way that they do a lot of these things, and how do you get new fans? You draw them in. You draw them in. You do something to draw them in. Well, Fox does a great job of helping not only the beginning fan, but also catering to the experienced fan. I've been watching NASCAR for going on for years now. And okay, a lot of the things that they talk about, like when they go to the cutaway car or things of that nature, I've known for a long time. But there are viewers out there that maybe it's the first race they ever watched. And that's why I say I think Fox does a great job of balance where they're taking care of the new viewer at the same time they're also taking care of the experienced fan as well and getting into some of those intricacies that especially the gearheads out there. Mechanically, I'm not a gearhead by any stretch. When it comes to the mechanics, I can't tear a carburetor apart. I can't tear an engine apart, and I never will tell you that I could or ever had the chance to. My dad could tear it down to nuts, bolts, and washers and put it back together, have it purring like a kitten. No sweat. Not this kid. Mm-mm. But as a fan, and now I know enough about the NASCAR structure, but when it comes to the ins and outs of carburetors and engines and that, not quite your guy. But at the same time, when you're watching the race, and think about this as you're watching the races, and it's hard to believe we're 13 days from Daytona 500, but it's very, very difficult to not look for the big one, and to not look for, your guy may be running up front. He may not be there for long, kind of a deal. It's part of restrictor plate racing. But when you're watching the race, think about it and check out how was it, was that something that they were gearing toward the new people? Because a lot of people, the first race they want to watch is Daytona 500. Most people that don't watch football, what do they watch? Super Bowl. Whether it's to watch the commercials, whether it's to have the party, whether it's to do whatever, that's neither here nor there. Same thing with this. Daytona 500 is the Super Bowl of NASCAR. And yes, I did steal that from somebody. Josh is asking about, was Kyle Larson robbed? Man, Josh, On a track like that, I don't really know that anybody could conceivably get robbed. Um, the it's a very difficult deal, and that's why I'm not the biggest fan of the Josh Berry have. I mean, Berry had a lot to race for, and Larson, it's funny to see what happened, and there's a couple different situations that, caused things to happen. Oh, you're talking about last year. I thought you were talking about Sunday. Um, and I think I know where you're going with this now because he lost the points for the Coke 600 because he didn't end up running the race or didn't end up qualifying the car because he was in Indianapolis. Um, was he robbed? No, because that was his option. Um, if someone wants to run both, which I know is very few and far between. Kurt Busch did it. Um, um, yeah, there's been a couple that have done. Danica Patrick, Tony Stewart. People trying to run both, you do run into the situation with weather. And Indy had crap weather on the day of the race. They were honestly very lucky to get that race in. Um, but by the time that he got to the track, the race was basically over. Um, so, but that was Larson's decision, and he even said that hey, it was my call. They gave me the option to leave the Indy 500 early so that I would be at Charlotte on time. And he didn't want to do it because he had committed to Indy and he committed to his team. And I give him credit for that. Um, at the same time, though, he was going to be in the playoffs. And did it affect him from being the number one seed with points? Not yes. Did it cost Larson the championship? No. So, long story short, to answer your question, was he robbed? No. Kyle Larson made a decision. And when he made the decision, he knew exactly what he was doing. And you just kind of have to go with it from there. We'll see what happens this year. From what I hear, he's looking at doing it again this year. Um, and this time actually running both races. Uh, Mr. Hendrick has said his Cup car owner has said that he's fine with it. Um, he has no problem with it. So we'll see how it works. That's just got to be, I mean, you sit there and you think about it, okay? You spend the entire month of May, because it's not just the day of the event, the entire month of May, you're running practices and then you've got qualifying and then you've got all these different things that you're doing to get ready for the Indy 500. At the same time, you've got 4 cup races that you've got to practice for and have qualifying and all that. And you're bouncing all over the country that entire month of May. Then the last day of the month or the last Sunday of the month, you're going to start out running 500 miles in a car that, if you've ever watched the in-car cameras, are very, no, very is an underword, extremely touchy in steering. Very, very meticulously driven. Can't bump and run in those cars like you can in a stock car. Okay. Then you're going to get on a helicopter, go to the airport, fly to Charlotte, get in another helicopter, fly to the track, get in your car, and then run 600 miles in a stock car at Charlotte Motor Speedway, where you're going to drive 1,100 miles. You're going to go through all that at the end of a month where you've been doing all these other things. If you can pull it off, you're a braver person than anybody that I know when it comes to that. Now, there's one other part of this, though, that has never happened. And if it ever did happen, it would be super cool. But none of the people that have tried the double have won either race. Came close, but nobody has ever won the double. Either one of the doubles. So that would be something kind of neat to see happen. But yeah, I mean, the way that they do that for, and we'll of course talk about it that week here on the show, and I'm going to try to get one of my buddies from Charlotte to jump on, talk a little bit about the Coke 600 that goes on that day. But we're getting to the point now that over the next couple of weeks here on the show, we're going to talk about a lot of preseason things, a lot of differences that are taking place in the NASCAR Cup Series here in 2025. And, there's been a lot of driver changes. And whenever you sit there and just look at not only the team changes, but also changes within the team. And I'm sure you're going, what are you talking about? Well, you've got a guy like David Gilliland, who is still going to be with Front Row Motorsports. Ran the 38 for them last year. Now in the 34. Different team, different car. And that 34 was driven by Michael McDowell, who has moved on to another team. The demise of Stewart-Haas Racing definitely caused a lot of chaos. Noah Gragson has moved from the 10 with Stewart-Haas to the 4 that Josh Berry was driving with Front Row Motorsports. Josh Berry has moved to the 21 with the Wood brothers. Corey LaJoie is out of the 7 with Spire Motorsports. Justin Haley has moved from the 51 to the 7, which they made the flip of LaJoie to the 51 and Haley to the 7 partway through most of the way through last season. But still, you've got that change. Ty Dillon is going to be in the 10 car for the first. He's going to be running a full-time Cup season in the first time in a long time, running for Colleague Racing in the 10. AJ Allmendinger is going to be in the 16 for Colleague Racing. First time in a couple of years, he's full-time on the Cup Series. Chase Briscoe's another one of those Stewart-Haas guys. He's moved to Joe Gibbs Racing. So he's going from the 14 to the 19, taking over the car from Martin Truex, who has retired. Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, came in and, of course, really dominated the road courses, but also did very well on the ovals as well. He went from Colleague Racing in the 97, where he ran all season in Xfinity. Now he's running for Trackhouse in their 3rd car in the number 88. The changes, and they happen every year, but when you have a company completely go under, that also causes some issues. Zane Smith moved from the 71 for Spire. He's now in the 38 in Front Row. We talked about Michael McDowell, who went from the 34 for Front Row to the 71 with Spire. Cole Custer is now in the 41 car. for what's called Haas Factory Team Ford. It's kind of similar to the HendrickCars.com kind of deal where Hendrick owns it, but you know, it is Haas, but it's not Stewart Haas Racing. Speaking again of Stewart Haas, Ryan Preece goes from the 41 with Stewart Haas to the 60 for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. So he's going to be the third car there, part of that team with Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski. Um, yeah, there's a lot of changes out. You gotta, you gotta have a scorecard for some of this stuff. And even in the Xfinity series, Connor Zilic is going to be running the 88. Um, Sheldon Creed, this, if I remember correctly, this will be his third team in 3 years because he did run for Childress. Last year, he ran for Joe Gibbs. This year, he's in the 00 for Haas Factory Team, the car that Cole Custer was in last year. Carson Kvapil will be in the 1 car for JR Motorsports. And I'm really curious to see when we're going to see Junior Motorsports at the Cup Series. I really am. I'm really interested to see when Junior is actually going to just. I don't know if it's bite the bullet or not, but it's one of those deals that you sit there and you wonder how does he not? But at the same time, where's he going to get the charter from? Where's he going to get the car? That kind of thing. So you just have to wonder. But a lot of people thought that he was going to buy or get in on some of the guys from Stewart Haas and that sort of stuff, and he didn't. So it's one of those deals that I'm very excited to see the changes. I don't count the Clash. Okay, I talked about this at the beginning of the show. I hate it. I hate that they have this thing on a track smaller than Bristol. It just does not make any sense. You're going to go from driving a track that's like driving around the parking lot at your local Target to going to Daytona International Speedway in a week and a half. No. Not to mention the fact the clashes, when you used to watch the clashes or the Clash before, it got that blood boiling. It got that, the fire burning inside of you that, yeah, we're getting ready for Daytona. We're going 200 miles an hour, all this stuff. They're going 40-mile an hour around a track that, I'm amazed there weren't more yellows than there were. I'm not saying anything against short track racing. I'm not. And I'm not saying anything against the history of NASCAR. Again, I'm not. First off, the LA Coliseum has zero spot in the history of NASCAR. And I get that the stadium they were in last night has historical value. But please explain to me where it makes sense to do this. Why not just go back to doing it at Daytona, have the 3 weeks of stuff going on at Daytona, the week before the Super Bowl, and then the week following the Super Bowl, and just go that route? Call it good. It doesn't make any sense. It's different than the All-Star race. Before anybody brings up the All-Star race, completely different from the All-Star race. And the main reason why I say that, completely different for one main reason. Just like the baseball All-Star game, just like the basketball All-Star game, it's built to go everywhere that they go. So when they ran it at Texas and North Wilkesboro and different things like that, okay, great. It's back in Charlotte this year. Do I have any issues with the All-Star race being run in, that time? No, not at all. I just don't like the Clash. If they were running the Clash, and I realize it's a tradition thing, but if they ran the Clash even at Texas, Talladega, Atlanta, somebody like that, if they did any of those things, I think it would be different because those are actual tracks that the NASCAR series runs on. Okay. In doing that, they're still running someplace that they're familiar with. This thing yesterday and what they've done for the last few years, it's a glorified demolition derby. These cars and these drivers are not made to be driving on those tracks, which is why they have to cut the field in half for the main event. They're running dirt track, local dirt track um schedule, format because they can't put everybody out there. Crazy. I got a guy here that's got a different viewpoint. He's an F1 guy. I won't hold that against him. Josh, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I got you. So, but yeah, he's definitely got a different outlook on things. He's an F1 guy. We'll teach him how to become a NASCAR guy here before it's all said and done.
I mean, I kind of am a NASCAR guy. It's just that I don't have any like real streaming services to like watch any of the race. I just watches like the races like highlights on YouTube.
Gotcha. I got you. Well, the one thing I can tell you, and it's not the same as watching it, but I know there's affiliate in your area that does carry the radio affiliate that carries the races. That if you get a chance, pop out on the radio, man. Get a chance to listen to those races. They do a real good job of painting the picture for you, so you can almost visualize you're being there while you're doing it.
And also, I don't have like enough time to like watch like 4 hour long races. Like I have enough time to watch F1 races, which are like average about like 2 to 1 hour.
Yeah, F1. It's one of those that I've just never gotten into. IndyCar, yeah, I'll follow IndyCar. And it's not that I don't like it. I mean, I'll watch it if it's on and I'm flipping through and it's on. I'll watch it. And I know a few of the names and that kind of stuff. And I've got a couple of friends that are. I've got one friend. She's a diehard F1 fan. She's a huge Ferrari fan. I mean, she don't want to hear anything but Ferrari. It's that's where pavement tire hits the pavement. Um, but you can't. The one thing you can't do very well is follow it all. And I'm sure like you said, your time. You found your one series, and it's good. The big thing is that you're a fan of it.
Like I have some of like Lego sets over there. I have I even got like a NASCAR Lego set.
You're right. Very good.
Like I try to like follow it all.
Good luck to you on that one. I tried that a long time ago and failed miserably because then I started not really following any of it because I tried following all of it and it just didn't it just didn't work well. So I wish you luck in trying to do that.
Well, I mean, I'm young also.
Well, I was a heck of a lot closer to your age when I was trying to do that too. But the whole concept though of racing is it's something that whether it's F1, whether it's IndyCar, whether it's NASCAR, whether it's ARCA, whether it's midgets at the local track, whatever it is, it's a family thing. I mean, just look at this right now. I mean, there's a 40-year difference between us in age. And but we're both race fans. different styles of racing, sure, but we're race fans, and that's one thing that I think is really cool about racing is that it does get the whole family involved. Um, dads teaching sons. I've got a buddy of mine that I went to high school with that he has brought his son up and through, and he's running midgets and quarter midgets and all that kind of good stuff. Um, it's a father son kind of thing, and they've done it for a while now, and he's doing very well with it. But it's pretty cool that is part of what it's all ages.
Like we have like what it's PPMS, Pittsburgh Motor Speedway. Like we go to them. We go to the heat races sometimes. The family.
Now, I'm originally from up there. Okay, I don't know if your dad has told you this. I'm originally from up there, and I don't even know if it's still there. So you got to help me out. You're on I-70. You're heading
I don't. I
toward.
I I don't know where it is either. I just go there. Like I don't pay
Okay,
attention to
because
the.
there was a place called Motordrome that was right on I-70, um, kind of between like Perryopolis and Pittsburgh, and we used to go there all the time and watch the races. I didn't know if it was still there or if
Wait,
that
what?
was what the new name was or whatever.
What was it
Um,
called?
Motordrome, Motordrome, Motordrome.
Hold on.
By the way, guys, this is Josh. He's the son of the guy that runs the network. So wanted to hop on for a couple minutes to talk a little racing, but yeah, that racetrack was pretty cool. It was a 3/8 mile, I think. Might have been a half mile, but I think it was a 3/8 mile asphalt. Um,
It
but
says
yeah,
it's
they
permanently closed on Google.
gotcha. But yeah, it was a good time. There was a lot of Friday nights outside of high school football season that we would go out there and watch the races, spend 3, 4, 5 hours out there, and call it good.
The funny thing is, I don't know that much about football like my dad does, but I know a lot about racing. It's quite ironic.
Well, it I mean it is, but it's not. Um, don't think that. Trust me, because there's things that I know a lot about that my dad didn't. So, the fact that you two guys have sports in common, because he probably knows a little bit about the racing, and you probably know a little bit about football.
Yeah, like I've been like I've started like I'm a fan of the Steelers, so I try to watch the games. But I've
Smart
started
man.
watching like the playoffs. I like got really interested in the football, like the playoffs.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, it's and by the way, it's very smart that you're a Steelers fan. Good choice.
I
We
know.
don't
So
want
I
any of
so,
this.
so I get so I get used to losing.
You've been listening to your dad way too long. 18 years they've never had a losing record. That's all I can tell you. But it's definitely one of those deals that you guys can teach each other, which I think is neat. Because if you guys are watching a race, he can go to you for information. Why is this happening, or who is this guy, or whatever, and you can teach him about it. The same way, if you guys are sitting there watching a football game, you can ask him, okay, so why did this guy do that, or why did that penalty have, or whatever, and he can show you. I think that's really neat that you guys have those two different sports to help kind of bring you together.
So when is the Daytona 500?
A week from yesterday, I'm sorry, a week, 2 weeks from yesterday, the week after the Super Bowl. And I know a lot of people, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, you're not as big of a football guy, But I know a ton of people that just are ready for baseball or NASCAR, and they're not as concerned about the Super Bowl this year. You?
Oh, I'm gonna watch it with my stepdad. I was hoping I made plans with him doing what, the AFC Championship, because I was hoping the Bills would win.
Me too. Me too. I did not want to see the Chiefs win. Um, I didn't. I wasn't overly concerned about who won in the NFC. Being a Pennsylvania guy, I wanted to see Philly win, but if Washington would have won, I wouldn't have been upset. Um, because they really played well. They deserve to be there. But yeah, I wanted Buffalo to win too. So
Like
and we all got disappointed.
everyone keeps saying they want the Chiefs to win to kind of save Philadelphia from the destruction it's already gonna receive. Because everyone's saying
I
even like
I
it
don't
doesn't
know,
matter.
Josh. I don't know, Josh. I mean, I hope they don't win, and I know that that may sound bad. I really hope Kansas City loses.
I do too.
Um,
That they've
you know,
stopped the three. They've stopped the three-peat before. They can do it again.
sure. Yeah, I mean they're a great team. Don't get me wrong. They are a great team. Andy Reid is a fantastic coach, one of the best coaches of all time. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes down to just the simple fact of there is just something about the Chiefs that they have taken over the Patriots role as a team you just want to slap every one of them. You know what I mean?
Like there are
So
rumors like if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, like Travis Kelce is gonna propose with a Super Bowl ring to Taylor. Like wild things going on like that.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised, win, lose, or draw, if he does something like that, simply to draw attention to himself. Because Travis is an attention guy. Um, I think I don't know. I'm tired of Taylor. I was not. I'm not a Taylor fan. My daughters are. My wife likes her music. I'm not a fan. And then, of course, when she gets shoved down our throats, where every time anything happens, it's a pan to the suites where she's at and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, can we stop this now? Can we please stop this now? Um, I don't know. I would not be the least bit surprised though if the Chiefs do win that Kelsey retires. Wouldn't be surprised at that. Yeah, because he is 36. So, he's not a spring chicken in NFL years. So, you know, could be.
All right, we got a little off topic. Do you mind if I hit you with a little bit of F1 things?
No, go ahead.
So on the February 18th in the O2 Stadium in I don't know where it is, London, they're doing a bunch of livery reveals. Like
Doing a what?
livery reveals, like the paint scheme of their car.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's gotta be super interesting this year because we got rumors like that Red Bull are gonna change their livery to like a darker as they prepare for the Ford sponsorship. I mean deal, and like Ferrari might go with a darker red because they just signed a new driver like Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion.
So you've watched NASCAR races. You know that the guys sometimes change the paint scheme of their car based on the
Yeah,
sponsor and all that kind of. Does that happen often in F1?
I mean it's like a lot more strict. Like instead of like in NASCAR, like the cars and the teams can run different paint schemes. In F1, the two cars have to be the same, and they get a set limit. Like I believe it's like 5 or 6, I forget.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, I think last year McLaren went over the limit. They had like 7 liveries, which was insane. Like, they were back to back sometimes also.
Gotcha.
So, do you have any F1 questions, I guess? I don't know.
Man, I mean, obviously, Bull of the Woods out there is Lewis Hamilton. Um, I'm guessing arguably the most popular guy out there. Max Verstappen.
Yep. 4-time world
Enough,
champion.
yeah. But do you see much of an influx of American drivers coming into F1, or is it just strictly European and Asian drivers?
It's a mixture. Like, last year there was an American driver, Logan Sargent. He was horrible. He was like crashing every 2 races, so he got replaced mid-season by an Argentinian driver, Franco Colapinto, who is much more popular, but he still crashed, but he brought in points. So I don't know. Like, Great Britain produces the most drivers. I believe they're at like what, 247 or something like that.
Well, and F1 just runs road courses. There's no ovals, are there?
They run a mixture of purpose built tracks and street courses.
Okay, what's a purpose-built track?
Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, Coda. They race at Coda. Coda
Oh,
would
okay.
be
All right.
that's a purpose built track. Like
Road
a
course. Okay, I got you.
a street circuit would be kind of explainable.
Yeah, yeah, and NASCAR runs at Coda. NASCAR also runs in Chicago, where they are on the streets in Chicago and that kind of deal. So, yeah, I'm familiar with that. Kind of what the Grand Prix does um, with their format. So I got you. I got you. All good. um, Man, it's hard to believe it. We're just about out of time total. We just got a couple more minutes. But man, I mean, I appreciate you jumping in, talking a little bit of F1. If folks want to talk F1 with you, how do they get you?
I don't really. I don't know. I don't have Twitter or
Okay, all right.
I
Hit
can
up,
maybe.
hit up his dad.
Yeah.
Send all your F1 questions. Just, I wouldn't do that to you, Adam. Actually, yeah, I would, um, but no, man, I appreciate you coming on for a little bit.
Yeah, it was a fun
Appreciate you
time.
listening. And yeah, we'll have to do this a little more often.
Yep.
And ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of the second edition of Two Tire Change here on the Driving to the Top Productions Network. Check us out each and every week at our YouTube channel, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, talking about the week in review in NASCAR and also looking ahead to the following week. Next week, of course, we got our big NASCAR preview. We've got predictions. We got a special guest coming on with us, and it's going to be a big time next week here on Two Tire Change. For my guy Josh, my name is Big Rich. At Go Big Go Home Pod is the Twitter feed. And until next week, so long, everybody.
Goodbye.